So for the squat, you need to start with bracing. Any compound movement, it's important to start by bracing your body for the weight. Anytime that you're going to put a heavy load on your back and squat down, you need to make sure that your core, your back, your chest, your arms, everything is ready to take the weight. If you just pick the bar up and step back with it, without your back and your core tight, ready to actually hold the load, then what's going to happen is you're going to be unstable. And as you're squatting, your upper body is going to be twisting and moving around. Your legs are going to be shaking a lot more because you're not going to be stable and planted into the ground. So make sure that you're braced properly. That doesn't mean that you need to flex all of your muscles 100% the whole time you're doing it. It just means that you need to actually have them tightened, braced, ready to go. Think about activating the muscle without pressing everything in your body at one time. Just understand that everything is going to be under stress and you need to be ready for that stress. Next is your hand position. A good place to start for the squat is putting your hands slightly outside of your normal bench press grip. That will allow you to get up underneath the bar and not have your hands too wide to where your shoulders are not contracting and bracing properly naturally. A good place for the bar to be on your back for the high bar squat, which is what this is across your rear delts and the middle of your traps. This will become easier the more you do it and the more comfortable you are with the squat position in general. You'll see some people using a bar pad. If you feel it's 100% necessary, you can, but I recommend really just practicing with the bar and getting the repetitions in with no pads or supports like that. Your feet position is extremely important. I would start slightly outside of hip width, and then depending on your range of motion, your flexibility, your mobility, how tight your hips are, things like that, you will slowly increase or decrease the amount of distance that your feet are spread apart. A good rule of thumb is if your toes start pulling away from your heels, then you need to bring your heels behind your toes. Do not try to bring your toes in front of your heels. Next would be your eye and where your head path. So you'll notice in the video a lot of times my face and my eyes are looking down, not directly downward in the ground, but more at an angle. You want to try to pick a spot on the floor that's about 45 degrees from your eye line. That way you're not craning your neck up and unnecessarily activating your erectors in your back, or down and putting too much strain on your traps and rhomboid and pulling yourself forward. A lot of people miss this, and it's something that can definitely change your squat form. It can make or break your bracing techniques and also your bar path in general whenever you squat upwards and downwards. Starting on the downward movement, you want to break at the hip, not the knees. Think about sitting back on a toilet or a very laid back chair. You don't want to necessarily break at your knees first, which would mean your butt coming straight down. You almost want to sit your butt directly backwards, letting that hip tension break, and your knees will follow. Allow your butt to come down to 90 degrees or just below. Pause for a second or less and come back up, making sure that you're keeping your glutes, your hamstrings, and your quads all braced, flexed, and contracted the entire motion. You should not be relaxing your lower body at all through the movement. Your depth, again, is going to be about 90 degrees or lower. Anything less than 90 is considered deep depth and is typically preferred amongst most weightlifters. Your upward momentum or your upward movement, after you get out of the bottom of your depth, you want to make sure that you're squeezing your glutes and hamstrings and quads, starting with your glutes and hamstrings to drive you out of the hole and back upwards, using more and more of your quads to get that hip drive. Your knees, you need to make sure that as you're coming down, and especially when you're coming back up, that your knees are not buckling inwards or too far outwards. A lot of people will have problems with their knees buckling inwards because their glutes are weaker and they're trying to find a way to activate their quads to compensate for weaker glutes. I've seen many times people who have squatted really heavy in the past without using proper form, they will have issues actually correcting their bar path and their form because they're not used to properly engaging their hamstring and glutes. So they have to decrease the weight significantly just to get proper depth and proper form. That's it for squat.